Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Sorry I'm a bit late. I was having some technical issues. Believe we're waiting on one committee member, but we can go ahead and get started. Let me just share my screen. All right, Alex, do you want to call the meeting to order?
We will call the August 18th, 2022 Ohio City Historic District Design Review Committee to order. Nate, if you want to call the roll.
Thank you. Alex Frondorf.
Here.
Margaret Land.
Here.
Chris Lozier.
Here.
And Antonio Marinucci will be joining us shortly, and Doug Wall and Marika Clark are both absent today. So our first applicant today is the Voodoo Monkey facade for final approval. I believe Joe Del Rey is here to speak to this. So Joe, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. How are you guys all doing today? We presented about 2 weeks ago a concept showing a new storefront installed along West 26th Street in the building located, I believe, at 2545 Lorraine Avenue. This would be on the west-facing facade. This is in conjunction with relocating Voodoo Monkey from their current location over on West 25th Street to a new location over on West 26th. This next slide just kind of shows the footprint of the building that we're looking at putting Voodoo Monkey in, along with their floor plan superimposed over the existing plan there. Again, this just shows a little bit of the current tenant mix and how Voodoo Monkey would slot in there. And here's the floor plan close up. Roughly the same size as they're currently occupying now, but with the main egress point coming in off of West 26th Street, as illustrated by that arrow. Again, like we talked about last time, this creates a common area vestibule. It's the front entry to Voodoo Monkey, and then also a secondary service entry for Boaz. This shows the building and elevation in a little bit more detail. The bottom there, obviously, obviously rendering the Voodoo Monkey storefront there. As we noted last time, we're not asking for approval of the signage. All signage and lettering is just shown for impression purposes. They'll come back later with their actual signage package. Some of the details, and David Stenner, who's from SA Group, is on the call with me, and he can speak a little bit more to this. Some of the changes that we made between our last presentation and this presentation is aligning the one end of the door frame with the mullion above it and the transom window above it, so it's all symmetrical. And David, stop me if I'm wrong, but we also changed the material of the door. We were contemplating a aluminum door, and then for further consideration and with regards to Doug Wall's comment, to making sure that we have the same impression on the bottom as the bulkhead, we're going for a wood door with a paneling and trim package that looks similar to the bulkhead just to the right of it there. This is the storefront rendered on the building. We're also showing the grade adjustment in the sidewalk to bring it up to the front door. As we noted last time, the door is not the ADA access, but there is ADA access provided off of the southern entrance, which is accessed off of our parking lot. And I believe that is a whole presentation.
Has the city opined at all on the elevation of the sidewalk?
I'm sorry, Alex, say that one more time.
Has the city commented at all on the proposed sidewalk elevation?
No, they have not made any comments yet on the drawings we submitted yet.
Does it create an actual ADA entrance?
No, the ADA entrance, if Nate, if you'd be so kind as to go back to the site plan, I can just illustrate where that's at. So if you take a look at the left end of the screen here, there are a series of ramps and raised access off the parking lot there. And you can see a series of doors that are also installed. They're a substantial width to provide ADA access to the back of this retail spot. LEAP, which is a firm that specializes in folks with disabilities, is the tenant on the second floor. They used to have space here on the first floor, but they pulled back after the pandemic. So that whole space was built out to accommodate guests with disabilities. So that benefit gets passed on to the new users.
I don't know then that you need to elevate the sidewalk to create a ramp there if you already have ADA access from that location. But at any rate.
The problem with that is that if you look at the elevation, the existing stone base that is at the bottom of the building is about 11.5 inches high. So it's a little too large of a step to get people in and out there in what, we're trying to get as close to a code allowable entry as we can. So by bringing this up about 4.5 inches, we can take that step down to the actual threshold to about 7 inches from the sidewalk. So we're trying to blend that a little bit just to make it easier to get in and out of that door.
It might be easier just to then add a second step rather than taking out, 3/4 of the sidewalk with it.
I agree. I would like that. Typically, in front of a doorway, you're required to have about a 5-foot landing space in front of the doorway in terms of width. So at that 1 to 20 slope, we can typically count that as that landing that's required. So again, to capture as much of the code as we can with this door, that's our approach. If a step is going to be allowable by the city, then I do think that's probably an easier method to construct that for sure.
I think that would be preferable here. I don't have any further questions if other committee members do. If no one else has
nothing specific. Yeah, nothing specific from me, Alex.
Thank you. Anyone else? If
No,
not,
this is consistent with what we saw.
would someone like to make a motion then?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve as presented.
Can I add with a recommendation of a step as opposed to ramp? Okay. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thanks. Nate, call the roll.
So the motion is to approve with the recommendation of a step instead of a ramp, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'll call the roll. Alex Frondorf,
Yes.
Margaret Land,
Yes.
Chris Lozier,
Yes.
and Antonia Marinucci.
Yes.
Okay, great. Project is approved. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Nate. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
So our next project is at 1733 Fulton Road. This is a window alteration, and I believe Adam Pastors and Pete Mazzeo are here to speak to this.
And Nate, before we begin, I'm going to recuse from this, so I'll pass it off to either Margaret or Antonia to chair this agenda item.
Okay, great.
Hi, everyone. This is actually Rob O'Ready with him and his design. Thank you guys so much for having us today. We are underway on a renovation, 1733 Fulton Road, a bank of townhomes, believe built in 1993. And we are here to present our proposed new windows for the space. Thank you, Nate. So you can see where it's located on Fulton Road, almost by Franklin Circle. And the unit in question. So what we're proposing is a UPVC tilt and turn window. As you can see, the main difference will be they will be clear windows. no mullions, mutton bars. As we currently have, we are keeping all existing window shapes and just, replacing them with these European style tilt and turn windows. And that's pretty much what we're coming to the committee for today. If you guys have any questions, Pete and I are both here to put your minds at ease.
Rob, can you tell us what the existing window material is and what the proposed window material is?
The proposed window material is UPVC, and the existing windows are aluminum clad exterior and wood interior.
Is there a reason to go with this type of window, which is UPVC, versus the aluminum clad wood, and also the casement type versus the sort of double hung, what appears to be double hung?
Yes, double hung is currently there. The reason that we decided on the UPVC tilt and turn is because we are trying to make this house as passive as we possibly can. These UPVC windows have been rated as passive home standards by the Passive House Institute. And so we are being very conscious of this moving forward in this renovation.
Is there something that's broken, wrong with the existing windows? Are they no longer functioning in some way?
They are no longer functioning.
And can you explain, like, are seals broken? What is the problem with the windows?
So yeah, seals. So all in the back of the home, seals are broken. Some seals are broken on the main arched window as well. And I believe there are a few windows that just don't lift anymore. They don't open. They are the original windows from when the home was built.
I understand and appreciate the desire to make the windows more energy efficient. I do question the material of the windows. We generally don't approve of anything that is a vinyl or vinyl byproduct. And then from the architectural standpoint, speaking for myself, I think it makes more sense to have the window pattern be consistent with those on the other townhomes there.
Yeah, I want to, I think, second Margaret's comments there. I think because there is, this is sort of in the middle of the row of townhomes. One of the features of that block is that they are all sort of consistent, and maintaining that consistency, I think, is something that we would look for with this window alteration. And also second Margaret's comments about the materiality of the window as well, about the PVC versus an aluminum clad or something that was more substantial, let's say. Also, just a quick question: the intent of the color, is it intended to be white, or were you going to match what was there originally?
So it is not going to be white. To answer this, it's not there. They will not be white windows. What's currently there is almost a hunter green, and we intend to go with black windows because we can't exactly match what is there with this UPVC. But I would also like to point out that there is a glass block window at the very end unit, which is kind of also breaking up the consistency. We understand what you're saying with the, consistency of the windows. But I do believe there might be a precedent because there is a glass block window on that end unit.
Well, I can't speak for when that glass block was installed, but if that was presented to this board today, I do not believe it would be approved. And we have to look at, what's in front of us right now.
Right.
Is there any kind of like HOA in this block or any other stipulations on the exterior?
No,
Remain
no
consistent?
HOA. They're all
Okay.
they're all fee simple townhomes.
Got it. I'm torn because I agree in the consistency among the units. However, I think that what you're proposing is a handsome change.
Thank you.
If it were just standing, if it were truly by itself, I wouldn't have any opposition, I think, to the aesthetics you're presenting. But
Mhm.
is it possible to, or would your client be amenable to a casement style window that matches the gridding pattern? Is that an option that they would consider so that aesthetically you're still consistent?
Potentially, we can discuss that.
Okay. And then I do agree from a materiality standpoint that our first preference is always going to be an aluminum clad wood. There's also, I think we will approve fiberglass, right, Margaret, as an acceptable or appropriate material. I don't personally know a ton about this UPVC product. So we do oftentimes, I think, get shown material in the vinyl family that is for the reason of being sustainable or energy efficient, but I think that that's a misconception promoted by the vinyl industry. I think that you can find very efficient units in materials that are more appropriate. Again, if your client's amenable to exploring another product.
And just so you guys know, this is not a typical vinyl window. I mean, these are German made, $100,000 for this townhome windows. I mean, these are premium, top of the line. They're not some kind of, wimpy window that's going to blow over in a breeze. It will hold up to the home. Just so you guys know, this is not like, I just want to make it clear that this is not like a standard vinyl window.
Well, I would feel that then I guess I would like to have like a spec, maybe some more information about the windows, a spec sheet.
Okay.
This is where it's unfortunate we're not in person, so we can't see sample material. But I would strongly encourage that the exploration of the grill pattern to have that discussion with the homeowner and then be presented again here. Because I personally would not vote yes on this as presented now.
Okay.
I don't know about my other colleagues.
And I can get you a sample of the window material. I don't know, we could speak offline about that, but I can provide an actual sample of the window.
I agree that that would be helpful, and also just more technical detail, like the cut sheets specifications that are involved with that product, so that we can learn more about the particular manufacturer you're proposing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does to my fellow committee members, do we have any feeling? I mean, same, is the feedback consistent then? If they only have black available for this product in particular, is that a part of the consideration in terms of varying from the other units? Again, I would prefer black. Think black would look great if this were its own unit. I like the aesthetics you're proposing. Should we give any feedback on that color now? I'm conflicted if it should match.
Yeah,
if it's restricting, if the product's not available in that color, then are we, is it worth the effort of considering the product?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think it's there's a couple of considerations. One is, is there an option, or are there other window options similar in function, but do have sort of options for grill pattern and other color ranges. This is one product. I'm sure Rob and Adam, you both have done your research to sort of look through all of the potential options, but I think it would be helpful for us to understand, if there are other options out there that could be considered, and what those might be with respect to color and potential grill pattern.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can, let me speak with the homeowner in terms of grill pattern. But I guess I just want to explore, I mean, it's either black or white with this product in particular. So just know that up front. But let me do some digging on this for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel that the aluminum clad wood, that should be explored, considered by the homeowner. And from their standpoint of wanting to have, a passive home, if that's coming from an environmental sustainability point of view, the manufacturing of the PVC windows it is in conflict with that. So I just wonder if the homeowner can't broaden their choices of window manufacturers and then find something that not only meets their sustainability values, but matches in color and design with the rest.
If there are no further comments or questions from the committee, this was here for conceptual approval, so no vote would be taken anyway, so you guys don't have to table it. Does the applicant feel like they've received enough feedback to go on?
Yes, I do feel like I've received enough feedback to go on, and I will, again, offline, get samples, and we will represent another conceptual.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So our next applicant is 1908 West 44th Street. This is an exterior alteration, also here for a conceptual approval, and the representative is Courtney Hudson. So Courtney, you can go ahead with your presentation whenever you're ready.
Nate, thank you very much. Appreciate your time today, everyone. So I'm the new owner of this duplex. It has been grossly neglected over the last somewhere between 20 and 40 years, as best I can tell. So I'm trying to get it, figure out what I can get done before winter. and then and before I have a full construction budget approved, and then work my way out from there. There is a senior citizen living in the downstairs apartment who's been there for 21 years in what I consider deplorable conditions. So I'm also eager to get this fixed up as quickly as possible. My goal today is to be able to order windows and get that done before winter, and I'll explain why in a second. Right now, the front of the house is wood. The side of the house, I had said it was aluminum, but it's in fact, I checked again a couple days ago, it's vinyl siding right now. Filthy, but vinyl siding. But I think the front of the bump out is wood, the front of the house is wood, and as best I can tell, the porch is rotted with some aluminum wrapped around the vertical posts. So as I said, my goal is to get windows ordered, and you'll see more why in a second. Second issue coming up, similar to actually the townhome you just saw, as you can see, the house is jammed right up next to one of the neighbors, so there is no north-south airflow. So I also want to make sure windows open so one can get as much fresh air in as possible as we go through this process. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Nate. Keep going. We'll come back to this in a second. Stop here for a second. I don't know if any of you are familiar with 1904 to the right of my house. Beautiful old home that is completely falling apart with bashed in windows and falling off porches. So this is just kind of one step. My house is about one step away from a tear down, as best I can tell. So let's move. Oh, sorry. While we're on this view, I'm not sure what happened in the attic up top. It's not a used attic, so I want to make it like the house to the left. Just put in a vent up there. It's a small vertical rectangle in there, and then repair the wood siding on the front. Keep the window openings everywhere else, keep them the same size, but replace the windows, most of which don't open or don't seal or don't close all the way, one of the two. But there are 3 duplexes in a row. My other goal, maybe this year, maybe not this year, is to also turn the front porch roof into a deck like the 2 neighbor duplexes next to it. Well, it's similar to those in size. I'd like to keep more of the traditional railing for it, but that would be one goal as well. But as I said, my main priority right now is the windows. Let's go to the next slide. I think that's the one. Here we go. There are no real windows. There are sheets of glass on the downstairs, and a couple of them have been broken for months before I got there. The one you see on the very right is a brand new replacement, but it's still just a sheet of glass and large. You can see the front porch. You can see, let's see, back of the house. And then one other thing I would say is that there is also no trim around any of these windows. There, and as Tim Barrett is the neighbor I look out at kind of across the street, as he's put it out, there are no frames around these windows and no trim around these windows. It'd be nice to get a little bit back in this process, but I'm very concerned about getting this winterized, insulated, double pane, modern windows in here. Let's go down to the next one. There we go. So, and I think the other thing is in terms of the style of window, the double hungs don't let much light in. I'm sorry, don't let much air flow in. So I would rather have these be a casement window, just solid glass, or under the tilt and turn that we just saw would be perfect in here. I think it better. I'd rather not have the double hungs if I can have that choice, but I do want, modern windows in. And as I said, my goal for today is to be able to go ahead and order. I have no idea what is available on kind of a short time frame and whether I have color options. Probably chocolate brown framed windows would be my first choice. If I'm stuck with white, so be it. And as much as I would love to change the facade, I may just need to repair and clean it up and repair the holes at this moment. Other than that bump out you see on the right, from the inside, it's rotted. When you step on the carpet, your feet go straight through. Let's go to the next slide. But my intention is to keep that bump out and be able to repair it I would also propose to take off the shutters, which I don't think were original, and I appreciated the guidance in one of the historical documents you have on the website. But I'd like to just have, the small frame around the window, get rid of the shutters, and again, turn that attic window into just a small vent, appropriate for that size. Let's go down to the next slide. As much as I love the bump out, they've also, as you can see, sided over a stained glass window, which I'm planning to keep the stained glass window. But again, I need to do repairs. And if you step on that orange carpet underneath that stained glass window, your foot drops down. So I'm not sure how extensive the wood damage is over there. I'll find out once I get the inside opened up as well. So let's see. And then let's go down one more. This is that front room that overlooks the porch. And I would like, my first preference would be to turn those into French windows with a vertical seam so that I can open them up for both airflow, and if I get approval for putting a porch or a deck out on top of the porch, that would be the means of egress onto those. There is no more height in that room for installing a door. It's a short ceiling. And as I said, the wood rot's pretty extensive in this place, so I'm not sure what we're going to find in a couple of weeks when we open up the inside walls and for some repairs there. But my goal would be to leave the same size openings where the windows are now, but replace them with French kind of vertical opening, and then everything else with the solid glass. I think of it as casement. I'm not even sure what the right word is for that. I'd rather not put double hungs back in if I can do that. So let me stop there and ask for questions or comments from the group.
Well, since this is conceptual, we won't be able to approve any windows this time around, namely because we require the actual specs of the windows themselves prior to approval, but we can provide feedback. And as you heard from the last presentation, we greatly disfavor the use of vinyl windows. We prefer aluminum clad wood windows.
I agree.
And in this house, I think keeping with the double hung is the way to go. Keeping the attic window is the way to go. And while we'll get to the porch at a later date and time, I'm sure, I could not support adding a rooftop deck onto the porch. That would be inappropriate for this house. And therefore, I think that moots out the proposal to put French door windows or doors on the second floor there. I think that would be unfair to this house and the historic district. So if you wanted to bring back a window cut sheet that was like aluminum clad double hung, we could look at that. We'd probably approve something like that. So I'll stop there because I know that that's your main focus today is windows.
I echo Alex's points, and I will also say from most contractors that I've spoken with, there's just such supply chain issues. I don't know that any window would be made quickly. I certainly understand the desire to have this buttoned up before winter. I just don't know that it's even possible, just so that you have that in your, in your mind as you're working through the project.
Yeah, I do have a contractor available, and I've been told there's a 6 weeks lead time on the windows. So there is time from that point of view to do it, as long as there's not much on the custom side. So yes, I hear you and am well familiar with that on some of the work I've done previously this year. But there is a shot to get it done. That's pretty reasonable.
In terms of the double hung, though, I think it would be absolutely appropriate just to have the single pane over the single pane. And so that hopefully would help with, the ease of manufacturing and the cost, because there's no need to add any grill pattern from a historic perspective to this kind of house.
Okay. Nate, can you scroll back up to something that shows just the front view of the house? Yeah, there we go. Okay. feedback is helpful. So you're also saying that you want the double hungs to stay on the bump out as well. Because none of these are original, you understand that. None of these are original windows, and the attic window is not even a window, it's a sheet of glass, not original as well. Alex, you understand that?
I understand that, but I also understand that the original windows, while we don't see them in this image, were very likely to be double hung windows.
Right, so that's the lower 2 floors. What about the attic window? Which I can't.
Unless there's evidence that that was recently cut in, and if I had to put money on it, I would say that there was some opening there historically. I don't know if you have a historic image of that house, but
No.
there probably was some opening there.
And that may have been the one location where there was a grill, a grill decorative pattern.
Right, that would have rotted if it were wood, which it would have been, it would have rotted out. This is what they did instead. Yeah. Nothing in this house has been replaced for over 20, 25 years. And then before that, who knows, but it was definitely kind of slumlord owned with no repairs.
You may also want to complete your investigation of what's going on structurally with the bump out. Because it would be a shame to do a window installation if there had to be major surgery done to that bump out. I'm just saying you might finish that investigation, figure out what has to be done there, because if a lot of it has to be taken apart, that could affect then the new window installation.
I agree, Courtney. We all very much appreciate your stewardship of this house and your tenant. But I have the same concern as Margaret, that you're putting the cart before the horse. If you have such significant issues with this house, which is common with houses that we've seen deteriorate, especially if there was ownership that was not taking care of the home for decades. You're likely going to have a lot more problems that are not just going to be fixed by new windows and new siding. So I would echo my colleagues in their assessment that double hung windows would be appropriate for the age of the home, in that you do take the time that it took decades for this house to deteriorate, and it's going to take a little bit more than just 6 weeks to button it up to really address those issues. And I also would hate to see you make an investment that's going to be out of sequence for this property. I hope that makes sense. I also think that you're, we're just looking pretty much, focusing a little bit more on the windows, I think, right during this discussion. But I do also recommend, if you are going to propose modifications to that porch, beyond just repairing one for one what's there, then we're going to need like the full, a full presentation of what that's going to look like in terms of drawings, elevations, materials. I would also encourage you to do the historic research on this property, and if there are photos available, if there are clues to how the house is developed, really be able to understand where the house has gone in the past 140 years likely. That would be helpful as well. But I would really encourage you to take the time that's necessary to really do the house in the correct sequence that's going to allow it to have more longevity, and give you 40 years of a stable structure versus just what you need in the next couple months. Would be short-sighted.
And hopefully save you money in the long run too. I think you're very brave to tackle this one.
There are repairs that are going to have to take place. So I am going to need to just fix up what's there today, keeping the same color, that sort of thing. But there are holes and things like that need to be repaired before it goes through another winter. So that will be embarking on. I appreciate the feedback and the encouragement for more research on the house. Any thoughts or comments on frames around and/or trim around windows? Because whatever was there has rotted out and somebody threw up 1x4s to kind of fold out just to close out the sides of the window boxes. So any comments or thoughts about that? And they leak.
Yeah, you'll want to bring back drawings showing the window trim. Undoubtedly, there was window trim there. You said you've been talking with Tim Barrett. I'm sure he could provide you with some examples or even samples, but you'll want someone to draw those up so that you can bring them back to us and we can take a look at them.
Okay. All right, good to know.
Courtney, my assumption based just on like what we see consistently throughout the neighborhood is a flat, 1x4 with a 1.5-inch sill. In terms of how it's aesthetically framed in that wood siding.
Yep.
Like it looks like the 1x4s are turned in like the soldier orientation. So we're seeing the narrow band of it from the photos. So imagine that the windows are framed in properly. And then when you're finishing it out, you're taking that wood up to a flat piece of 1x4 trim that's framing the window with a 1.5-inch sill on the bottom side of that window.
Which is what yeah. Nate, can you scroll down to the next slide? There you go. My guess, this is sort of what you were talking about here on the left would be my guess. That's
correct.
Closer.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be decorative.
Yeah, just framed.
But the simple design is appropriate to the house too.
Exactly.
So.
All right, good. This is the direction I wanted to be aimed in. So that's, from my point of view, that's great. If I have to stick with the double hungs, I'll stick with the double hungs. That's not a problem. I would encourage you to rethink that top attic window is that's just sort of scary, but okay. And a double hung doesn't really.
Well, no, it wouldn't be a double hung there. It would be something else.
I think that, yeah, obviously the window in its current iteration is clearly not original, not what should be there. But aesthetically speaking, I do think in terms of the balance of the house, it probably did have the glazing there. Maybe it was smaller, maybe it was the interior framing might give you clues to that. It might not be a double hung, but maybe a casement style would be appropriate to propose there. You have to propose it to us. I think we're giving you some good feedback, but we can't, always prescribe exactly what it is to do. You have to present to us and we have to assess if it's appropriate or not.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate your time today very much.
All right, Nate, you want to call the next one?
Absolutely. Thank you, Courtney. So our next applicant is 2715 Detroit Avenue, and that's the CF Bank signage, and this is new signage. So Michelle Applebaum, are you here to speak to this?
I am, thanks.
Oh, there we go.
So thank you. This is pretty straightforward signage, nothing really unusual. Channel letters to go on the 28th Street side, and then a projecting sign on Detroit Avenue, both of those illuminated. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about that.
Sure. Can you start by talking how you're going to mount those signs?
I'm sorry?
How will the signs be mounted?
How will they be mounted?
Yes.
The projecting sign, you can see the aluminum tubes, the arms, mounting to that sign panel there. Did you need more specifics than that?
Yeah, I wasn't clear. Okay, so it's just going into the sign panel, not into brick. Is that accurate?
Not into brick?
The signs that you're proposing are just being mounted exclusively to the sign panel, and there's no mounting into brick. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Let me double check on the, yes, that's correct for both of them. Yes.
And then the white LED is that backlit? It was hard for me to tell.
On the, are you looking at the channel letters here for this one that's showing for sign one?
Yeah.
Yes, so those are face lit letters. Yep. And the projecting sign is double faced, so that's illuminated as well on both sides.
My only concern is to what extent or how how much is it illuminated? Is this thing going to glow, or is this more of a subtle lighting?
It's standard, LEDs that we use. I don't know in terms of measure. It's nothing that's above and beyond what's typical for LED lighting of signage. Other than that, I don't know if you would need, I don't know what specific information that you would need. The projecting sign does have, if you can go to that slide. Thank you. So it will have a light that is pointing down over the entrance. That was requested by the landlord, to have like a security light that is pointing down towards the entrance, inserted into the sign.
Anyone else have any comments? My only concern is just how bright it is, but that's it.
I mean, I think if it's sort of standard brightness for signage, I don't see a problem with it. I don't see any challenges with the sizes or locations or what's being presented.
Is a 3-foot diameter there? Is that about average? I can't recall.
I'm sorry, we have,
Chris, is a 3-foot diameter on the blade sign. Is that about right?
Yeah, it seems. I mean, if it's proportional in the sort of rendering to the scale of sort of the signage sort of zone, the black zone, I think that seems in keeping proportionally with what's going on there.
Any other questions? Someone care to make a motion?
Motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Nate, call the roll.
Alex Frondorf,
Yes.
Margaret Land,
Yes.
Chris Lozier,
Yes.
and Antonia Marinucci.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. The project is approved.
thank you. One quick question, Nate. Since I'm in Columbus, I'm not familiar with your procedures in Cleveland, but I know this has to go to the Landmarks Commission next, correct?
Yes, and I can get you their contact info. I can send you an email. I'll follow up.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Have a
All right,
great
thank
day.
you. Thanks, you too.
Our last project today is 4604 Clinton Avenue. This is a conceptual home renovation, and I believe Chris Rood is here to speak to this. So Chris, go ahead.
Thank you. How's everybody doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, this is a renovation of an existing house at 4604 Clinton Avenue. Basically a remediation of this house. If you want to go to the next slide. Zoning, heights, everything else are essentially unchanged in terms of the house. One thing you will notice is in between Clinton Avenue and Weed Court, there are 2 parcels existing here. So the house in question faces Clinton, and then there's an additional parcel off the back to Weed Court.
And just for clarity, it's owned by the same people, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So if we look at the existing conditions, there was this yellow vinyl siding that was applied to the house over the original wooden lap siding that exists underneath. So part of the remediation that we're proposing is to remove this yellow vinyl siding and then restore the 4-inch wooden lap siding that exists underneath. And then, of course, full replacement of all the windows. The other thing you'll notice in the lower right picture, there is this bump out that was created off the back of the house that's in pretty severe disrepair. And the intent is to remove that bump out to go back to having the original north-facing facade. The other thing you'll notice as well is there's an existing curb cut that happens on the right side, the east side of the house, with driveway there. And then they have a wooden fence up, and then there's also essentially a chain link fence around the front portion of the property. The idea would be to remove that chain link, obviously. And then if you want to go to the next slide, one of the things you will notice is that along the existing 3-story house, there is a series of slate pavers that we intend to repurpose as a drive aisle along the existing curb cut, maintaining that curb cut. If you look to the north, there's proposed future townhome development on the parcel to the north facing Wheat Court. And part of the design intent, number one, is to create a new patio that comes off the back of the existing 3-story house. And then also to create a new tandem 1-story garage that happens off the side of the house that would essentially be a pass-through to grant access to both Wheat Court and Clinton. If you want to go to the next slide. So in terms of the floor plans, you can see the relationship of the tandem garage to the house and the new patio in the back. There's considerable reconfiguration of the existing floor plan as it stands, which we've taken into consideration structure and everything else. The other thing, there are currently 2 chimneys on this house. We are proposing preserving the main chimney / fireplace area that's off the left of the living that you can see on the first floor plan, and the other one would be removed. The other consideration that you'll see on the 3rd floor plan is to create a new walkout patio that would face north towards Wheat Court, would not be visible from the street. If you want to go to the next slide. So essentially the renovated elevations, you can see we're essentially creating new pass-through garage doors that the garage would be offset back, and then there would be a walkout patio that would occur above the garage. And the notion here, we initially had the garage situated flush with the front elevation of the house. And we changed the configuration of the doors to try to make them blend as much as possible into that 4-inch lap siding that we're doing. And then this offsets, we offset it back from the front facade. The other change you will notice to the front facade facing Clinton, Dave, if you can scroll back up to the existing photos. In the upper left, you'll notice that there are kind of 2 dormers going on here with the 2 hipped roofs and then the gap in the middle. One of the maintenance considerations that this has currently is there's a lot of ice damming and water backup that happens within here. So one of the design changes we are proposing, if you go back to the elevations, we want to maintain that hipped profile on that front, but consolidate that into a single dormer with larger windows. In terms of the windows themselves, we are proposing aluminum clad wood that would go in here, completely new black asphalt shingle roof. And then you can see where the walkout would happen along the north facade. And then there's a bump out on the west elevation currently that has white vinyl cladding on it. The idea would be to remove that and create a copper accent along that bump out, which you can see on the rear elevation and the left elevation. And I'll open up for questions.
All right, I'll go first. Well, first, thank you for attempting to restore this house. But there are several things that have kind of gone off the rails in that process. First is, and the most objectionable, is adding the garage to the side of the house in the manner that you've done that. And then also opening up the garage door to Clinton Avenue. I can think of, and I'd welcome you proving me wrong, that there is any garage door facing Clinton Avenue where alley access is also provided. You've demonstrated by putting the garage door on the rear of it that you also have alley access. The garage door, for me, and I suspect many of my committee members, is a complete non-starter. So is the manner in which you've attached the garage to the side of the house as a shoebox there. That's entirely inappropriate. You own both parcels. The only thing that is causing these are unforced errors, is just frankly greed in wanting to put 2 more townhouses in the backyard. The appropriate thing to do here would be putting the garage on Wheatport on the alley. And if you wanted another unit, you could add a carriage house on top of that, and that would probably be much more appropriate. But to just glue a garage onto the side of this historic structure is entirely inappropriate. The second thing is unless under any set of circumstances, the copper cladding is just, I don't know where that comes from, and I don't know how you would argue that under the Secretary of Interior standards. I'd be fascinated to hear that explanation. And then finally, the 3rd floor walkout is another amendment to this house that I think is inappropriate. So those are my 3 main comments. I have many more, but those are the 3 big areas, and I'd be interested in hearing my fellow committee members' thoughts on those.
I think the one thing to add for me is, the major defining characteristic of the front of the house is sort of the 2 separate dormer windows. That's, I think, what makes this house stand apart from, those that are sort of neighbors, but also, I don't know that I've seen something like this on any other houses in the neighborhood. So I would recommend, is there another solution to maintaining that as a historic design feature of the house?
Okay.
And Carl just added in the comments section that a garage in the front 50% of the lot is not allowable by code. So.
Okay.
I think I would echo my colleagues that a lot of these proposed changes just would not be appropriate for this house. I would also really heavily encourage you to perhaps reconsider the site plan that you're proposing. I think that there is a way to do an attached garage with an alley, accessible driveway, and allow for some buildable land still to occur, especially if you were to flip the driveway on the site, and perhaps have an attached garage at the rear behind kind of that bay window area, if that's a strong desire. But as this proposal stands, I just, the garage in its current condition just would not be anything that I would be able to support.
I'm in agreement with what my colleagues have said. I don't think I need to add.
Okay.
And I'll say, though I didn't say it, I agree with Chris's comment about the front of the house and combining those 2 dormers.
What was the last comment? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that part.
Chris remarked, and I was saying that I agree with that, the combining of the two dormers on the front of the house, that's sort of the distinct architectural feature of the house, and to blend them into one would not be appropriate.
Okay, got it.
Chris, I am totally fine with you, you know, if the modification in terms of removing that rear bump out, that little add-on,
Mhm.
that is an exterior, you know, modification that I think would be fine. The rest is a bit of a departure for me.
I think reworking the site plan will solve a lot of these issues.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Does the applicant feel they've received enough feedback to work off of?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. And I believe that is our final case for today. So Alex, if you want to call the meeting to end.
We'll call the meeting to conclusion. Thank you.
All right, record time for 5 cases. So
I'm proud of that.